Welcome to Community Watch, and today we'll be talking to business consultant Al Hodge. He's talking about economic development and the outlook. Stay with us. Community Watch starts right now.
Welcome to Community Watch. Greg, how you doing?
Doc, doing fine, and you, sir?
I'm all right. Fist bump. Since we can't shake hands, I hope you're staying healthy.
I think I am. I think I need to work on my mental health, but physical health, I think I'm doing okay.
That's another show. But we are very happy to have with us today Mr. Al Hodge. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Appreciate the invitation.
Now, Mr. Hodge, you spent many years just in total control of the economic situation in Rome and Floyd County, and with your work with the chamber. And I understand now you are quite busy. It's not a peaceful, quiet retirement for you. And you're doing some consulting work all over the place, I think. So we'll get to the area stuff shortly, but tell us about the consulting business and how that is working for you.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation to participate today. And thank you for all y'all do. Related to both the college and the outreach programs that you do. Those are very significant, and perhaps we can talk about that a little bit later because education and workforce are intertwined, of course. And also, thanks for the nice compliment. And I was part of a team. This was not an individual who was involved. We always had a great unified team, city, county, chamber, and of course, the great members, and including, of course, Georgia Highlands College. Well, I launched with my wife, Cheryl Reiner Hodge, a business consulting service last May 1st, so just over a year now. And we've really been blessed with some great clients that have taken us to Washington and Savannah and Houston, Texas, and Tokyo, Japan, and it's really been a lot of places in between. We're helping a small Southwest Georgia community, very rural, resource needy, and of course, Greater Houston, one of the largest metropolitan areas in the United States. We helped with their economic development strategic plan and help them with some repositioning at a key time in the economic life of Greater Houston. We've worked with some small businesses, some manufacturers. It's really been very fulfilling, and I'm happy to say has exceeded our expectations. We've been helpful to a lot of folks. So continues our passion of helping people, helping communities, helping businesses succeed, which of course provide great jobs for folks.
You say it exceeded your expectations, but I'm just wondering if you've been a little modest with the success and the reputation, because not only were you involved with the Chamber of Rome, but also I know the state chamber as well. So I'm not surprised at all that you're doing very well. I'm just not at all.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate the vote of confidence.
Well, I have a question though, as it relates to economic empowerment or development. Is that something that you sense that a lot of cities and a lot of communities, it's just not an area? I look around Rome and I look around other Northwest Georgia areas and in different places, and it just seems like economic development is not all the same in all the places. Like everybody have a very similar playbook, because you can look at counties that are next to us, not saying anything negative about them, but
right.
Clearly the development has lagged tremendously behind. And it's just very noticeable when you go outside of Rome and look at some of these counties that are next to us. And when I was involved with the chamber, it's like, wow, now I kind of understand why Rome is doing so well, because of the economic plan they had. So is that just me, or is that kind of what you sense as well, that economic development is just not a, I don't know if everybody approaches it the same.
Different communities approach it different ways, and in fairness, sometimes communities don't have the resources to make a difference for their economic development in a substantive way. Everybody can make a difference, and then part of what Hodge Consulting Services brings to the table is to identify the resources, the real assets that a community has, even if it's a small community, and help to develop a plan. Perhaps the biggest difference for Rome and Floyd County, we took the assets of education, healthcare, and manufacturing and built upon those. We didn't do it just because it was here. We put together a plan called Rome Floyd 2020. Initially, it was 20 goals for 20 years, and identified the assets, but also were very realistic with the weaknesses. And therefore, we marketed the assets, the strengths, to the rest of the world, while also working on the weaknesses to further develop the community. And it worked. It worked very well, with emphasis, of course, on entrepreneurship and innovation, and on our existing employers, and what else could we do to enhance all of that. And then we had, in Rome and Floyd County, we had some great assets that were untapped, underdeveloped. And part of that, of course, related to making certain that the rest of the world knew we were open for business. And so with that, we recruited a lot of Japanese companies, and of course, Italian, South Korean, Belgian, quite a few companies. And again, part of the plan, part of Rome Floyd 2020, was to further develop the community. And then one of the other parts, Greg, that may put it in perspective too, related to other communities, is that every year we were laser-like focused on the plan and implementation. Every 5 years, we reviewed it, and sometimes we overhauled the entire plan because of conditions that had improved in the community or external conditions that we wanted to take advantage of. So every 5 years, we continued to move the standards higher, and all of that made a big difference as well. So it was not we committed that if we did this plan, it would not sit on the shelf collecting dust. We would be very committed to implementing, and especially early on, the city, county, chamber, development authorities, everybody was on board and really had the attitude of what does it take to continue to help Rome with investment, good jobs, to raise per capita income, to raise the education standards, the graduation rate. What else could we do with and for the colleges and the health community? And of course, the great primary employer of manufacturing companies that are based here, as well as what else could we do to help them and to help the rest of the manufacturers grow. Because in all three cases, education, healthcare, manufacturing, all three sectors do business with small business. And every time we did a survey, well, actually over my 40-year career in the chamber world, every time we did a survey, what can we do to help you, small business? And the answers consistently, among others, but the consistent number one answer was, we want sales, good sales. We want customers, paying customers. And so when you work on the primary employers, then small business is helped as well.
You know, we've got to talk about the effects of area economy right now in the pandemic. And you brought up small business. And see, we're taping this in mid-May, and we're already beginning to hear, even as things are slowly beginning to open back up in the state. Although it seems pretty quickly if you go to Broad Street now and then, it looks pretty active now. But you're hearing about a few small businesses that are closing, that have suffered through the shutdown. So, given your experience in this area, where do you think we are economically, and how well? Of course, you can't tell the future, but or maybe you can. If anyone can, Al Hodge can, I'm sure. But where do you think we're headed from the way things are looking now?
Well, certainly the dose of reality is a lot of concerns, of course, for our small businesses, our restaurants, our retailers, service providers, and of course, various definitions of what is and what is not essential. What we really strongly have going for us in Rome and Floyd County, first of all, is diversification of our employment base with the three that we've already talked about, the three sectors that are our primary employers. Beyond that, the existing industries that have committed to expansion are very significant. And again, they do business with small business. And so there are some good news in along with the clouds that have gathered.
So
go
ahead, Doc.
No, you go.
So as you said, there's some good news, and I believe that. But from your experience, I mean, because I think I hear people sometimes think we're going to open back up and somehow the economy is just going to get back to where it was. I just don't think that's realistic. But based on your experience, how long will it take, or are we in for a slow haul to really the economy to get back to scale?
What I advised clients when everything started hitting, and I did this advisedly, and I asked our clients not to make a complete business decision on what I was suggesting. But it was apparent to me that by mid-July, this was in early March, and lots of folks were saying the sky was falling, and understandably. But my assessment was that by mid-July, there would start to be what would look like, what would seem like normalcy, and that following Labor Day, there would be the new normal. And then, of course, I would add some provisos to what new normal might be. Cheryl Reiner Hodge, upon hearing me say this to several folks, said, "Al, with all those provisos you add after the new normal, what I think you mean to say is the new abnormal is going to happen after Labor Day." So with full attribution, Cheryl Reiner Hodge, I believe, is right. The new abnormal will start after Labor Day. And I'm encouraged that some businesses are getting back. But the part of what is happening is really twofold. One is the federal government and the appropriations of trillions of dollars, the Federal Reserve providing backstop, and then, of course, the medical sector in the United States and around the world working on both a cure and on the vaccines. All of that is happening as we speak, and therefore I'm encouraged. But I do think it will be through next year, through 21, until we get back to the same levels. And even then, the levels will be different than what we had even in February of this year.
All right, we're coming up on a break, but we have a lot more to talk about with Al Hodge, so please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Your life is filled with opportunities to show the world you can take charge. It's waking up each day with a mission. It's working each day toward a goal. It's choosing to rise. It's charging forward with a purpose. It's changing the course of your life and taking charge of your future. If you're ready to be a Take Charger, enroll at Georgia Highlands College today.
Welcome back to Community Watch, and today we're talking to Mr. Al Hodge, consultant, and we're talking about the economy. And Al, before we went on break, I have a question. We was talking about businesses and things of that nature, but I just have the feeling that a lot of companies, well, not a lot, but quite a few small companies just will not be able to rebound, even with the government loans, things of that nature, stimulus packages, the amount of capital and things and resources necessary for them to maintain during this period, and then the necessary capital to restart. Do you see that happening? Will quite a few small businesses be able to survive this?
Unfortunately, I think you're right. Unfortunately, I think there will be some small businesses and even some very large ones that won't make it through this time. Part of that is the obvious with businesses and education, so many factors shutting down or altering how they do business, which changes everything from where we eat and where we shop. And so there's not a way that some of our small businesses and in the retail and the restaurant sector are going to make it, unfortunately. Unfortunately, the entire hospitality industry is the most affected by what we're going through right now with this pandemic. So part of it is, what can the federal government do? What can state and what can local, both government but also individuals, do to help them? Additionally, what can that small business do differently going forward in order not just to survive, but to work on thriving? We do have examples. The mattress manufacturer that switched from mattress to masks, face masks. There are a lot of examples locally and around the country where businesses have pivoted. Not everybody can do that, but there are examples of businesses that have gone online where they didn't do that before. Therefore, social media advertising and being creative with emails and suggestions, push style marketing using social media as well as our traditional media locally is important. But despite all that, unfortunately, there will be folks that will be impacted and won't be able to survive. So what else can they do? Let's assume for the moment that they have worked on the pivot and it didn't work, or they choose not to pivot and use multiple strategies to do what I just described, which is work on ways to thrive. Well, part of that is individual assessments, folks looking in the mirror, looking at what they bring to the table, what they bring to an employer, and what else might that mean. Obviously, small business people are accustomed to solving problems. They are creative. They have a knowledge of accounting, marketing, customer service. Those are transferable skills. What else could they do? Well, they could go back to school. Georgia Highlands College has a lot of continuing education courses, or perhaps it's someone that didn't finish their diploma. They didn't finish their degree, and they can go back and learn. Knowledge and skills, I mentioned. Therefore, Georgia Northwestern Technical College has a lot of coursework that's available. And, I've talked to some folks that have said, I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to try. One fella said, I'm going to try, and he described 4 things that he was going to work on over the next few months. And he said, if one of those sticks, I'm going with that. And if it doesn't, then I'm going to go back to what I did before, but then do it differently. So there are some things. But in the meantime, locally, there are some major injections of investment that should give our small business folks some optimism for what's going to happen here. If you take Ball Corporation and their new cup manufacturer, which is a sustainable, environmentally positive investment, over $200 million. International Paper is adding $150 million to the $150 million they announced several years ago. Cary Foods, Southeastern Mills. There are some folks that are investing very significantly in the community. There's over $600 million that's being invested right now. And in good times, that's a significant investment. Right now, that can make a huge difference in the lifeblood of our community. So what can small business people do to positively take advantage of that? What else can we do using technology? Microsoft just announced 1,500 more jobs going to downtown Atlanta. Well, we all know that with the shift and the reality check, positive one in this case, that folks using technology can work from home and won't necessarily be needing to commute to Atlanta, Chattanooga, or other places if they are a software engineer and so forth. So Rome has some opportunities in the innovation and entrepreneurship space. Our existing businesses are continuing to work and, as they have in the past, help to provide more income. There will be challenges in education and the higher education sector. All of our, until very recently, our healthcare sector there were concerns. But now what is so-called elective surgery can take place again. But even there, telemedicine is going to make a difference. And what entrepreneurs might we have here, as we've had in the past in the telemedicine sector and in the reality of environmental sustainability, green carbon. There are just some really great folks here with great vision, and I have great hope for Rome and Floyd County.
You know, it sounds like what you're saying is that business, small business, and all business needs to be creative and flexible, just like all of us are having to be right now.
Right, and educators in particular, obviously a lot of spotlight on educators and the adaptation that you're doing in order to make certain that Johnny and Shanika can read and be developed thanks to information technology. I will miss, and I know you will too, the summer camp this summer with the special outreach that Greg, that you do, John, that you do, that are David Mathis, different folks that have really created opportunities for students and helping them change their perspective. So I don't know if there's some things that the business community, the education, the faith-based community can do, perhaps to do some different types of outreach for your students that are going through the program. Perhaps some of the alums can help as well. But y'all really deserve extra stars in your crown for what you've done with Brother to Brother, as well as for the summer camps.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Hodge, and we're totally out of time now, but appreciate you being with us and hope you'll come back again.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for the role that you play.
And thank you for being with us on Community Watch. We'll see you next time.